So I have Aneesh Popat with me, the founder of the Chocolatier. Great to have you on. I've done a bit of research already, and I came up with three things. I came up with the Heston Blumenthal of the chocolate world, voted in the top 1,000 most influential Londoners, and I see countless awards. So welcome. Great to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So tell me about your journey. Tell me when it all started. Go back to the sort of beginning and how you ended up doing what you're doing.
Well, I've always loved chocolate, and I can't tell you the very first seed. I've tried to trace it back, but I remember being gifted a chocolate making course whilst I was at university for a birthday. Um, so I obviously was obsessed with it enough for somebody to do that. I remember actually at university, I used to prop up some of my books with a stack of chocolate bars, so I clearly had a significant
Thing.
tooth. Um, And I did a degree in maths, and after that, I went to India and studied philosophy for a couple of years. And it was really out there. I got to, uh, I I eat Indian food at home. So, and I'm surrounded by spices and tropical fruits quite often. But to see it firsthand being cooked and at the same time back home, Hester Blumenthal was doing all the really cool, unusual things with gastronomy and molecular gastronomy. That ticked my science box. The Indian food was like flavor bombs. I was like,
Yeah.
how can I bring these two things together in a way that I really enjoy, um, whilst doing something that I love? And chocolate was that sort of format. So I gave up originally the first year of my return back from India to chocolate making, and yeah, and the snowball just kept rolling. Really, think one thing after the other just led to the brand that I have today.
Brilliant. So when was this? Tell me about. So what was the world like then? That was what. So you've just finished uni and then you did the 2 years.
That's right. Yeah. So I was in India from university was 2009 to 11,
Yeah.
12, 13 in India. And I incorporated the Chocolatier in 2014. And yeah, I didn't know what a business was. I incorporated, and I didn't even realize I had. Um, Surprise, surprise, I had to file accounts. What are those?
Yeah.
And I was making lots of chocolate with nobody to sell them to, and that didn't really bother me. I was more interested in the creation of a product. And yeah, a 40 pound market stall back then was a huge risk for me to take, and it's a completely different mindset uh, to the kind of things that a business should be prepared to do, and does do. And yeah, it's quite naive and funny looking back, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I talk to a lot of founders, and some of them, I ask them the question is, at what point on that journey did you suddenly think, I've got something here, and I have a mixture of results. Sometimes people are kind of like, well, I'm still working on it. Sometimes people, I knew it right from the start. Was there a pivotal moment in what you were doing where you thought, actually, we've not cracked it, but I've got something here?
I couldn't tell you an exact moment. There was definitely a transition from this is just my passion,
Yeah.
and okay, I'm going a bit far here. I'll accept poverty because I'm happy doing what I want to do. Uh, that mindset of hustling, and it will make do. I love what I do, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't think that's far from where I am even still, to be honest. Being an artisan isn't super lucrative.
No,
It's
it's not.
not. And it's a hard graft. There's way many more aspects to a chocolate. I mean, it'd blow your mind if you found out what went behind a single chocolate bar. The amount of months that go behind even just a piece of chocolate is insane. So there's a huge amount that goes behind it, and obviously that comes at a huge cost. I think several things made a significant difference to uh, the brand and its sustenance and the longevity that we've had. I think our ethical standpoint on
Yeah.
sustainability and how we treat people both within the business and outside the business,
Yeah.
why we're making chocolate as well, and our core values as a business. I think those things have really kept the business in good stead. And lastly, just you know, I treat ingredients with the same respect that I watch the people that I admire, that
Yeah.
great Michelin chefs of yesteryear. Few ingredients, don't do too much with them, respect them,
Yeah.
and just present them in their natural and the best form possible. And I think those few things have just kept the product in high quality and in a good steady demand.
Yeah. No, it sounds good. Particular highlights along the way? I mean, you did your, was it your 10th anniversary last year? Is that right?
14th actually, 14th.
Oh yeah, yeah. Wow. So yeah, highlights.
Um, so apologies, you're right, that is 10 years, but actually no, we incorporated in 2011. 2014 was a bit further down the line. Highlights. I remember getting into a 5-star hotel in Piccadilly, Le Méridien Hotel.
Yeah.
This was probably in 2000 and so apologies about that. So 2011 we started. 2012 I got into Le Méridien in Piccadilly, and I remember stepping outside of Piccadilly at the hotel on Piccadilly, and I literally felt like I owned Piccadilly. I had sold probably like 140p chocolates or something.
Wow. Oh,
Like,
you're buzzing.
yeah, I was like, I just can't believe, from at that time, my mum's dining room, these chocolates made, and here we are supplying this amazing. And then I think a few months later, we got into our first Michelin-starred restaurant, and that was like, okay, this is really being recognized now. A few others, we were really fortunate to have made the statement piece chocolate box for the Queen's Jubilee with Fortnum and Mason. So that was really, really special. And actually, there's a picture of it just there. And it's a really special box, which had like this lovely reveal compartment, and all the flavours were themed around Her Majesty's favourite flavours from the British Isles, things like Tabery, or she loved a chocolate biscuit cake, and we incorporated that all into chocolates as well. Yeah, there's been some bizarre stories along the way. Our chocolates being shipped not by us, but by the customer, unaccompanied in a private jet because they really want them, and things like that. And he's just like, wow, this is great. Like, well, not the sustainability side of it necessarily, but the demand for it, and that's
Yeah.
really touching.
So at what point did you, so you've got traction, you've been doing what you're doing, you've come out, you're standing in Piccadilly, and you've got that kind of rush. At what point did you say, well, actually, I'm gonna put these online. I'm gonna get myself a website, and I'm gonna sell to consumers, because it's a very different thing selling to a hotel chain or to a restaurant than it is to selling to consumers. What was that moment like?
I mean, it was one of the it was almost I mean, it came at a very small cost, but it was almost a relatively free way to display your products,
Sure. Yeah.
and get it in front of a nation, as opposed to a local locality in a market. So it was, if you didn't have a website, it felt like you didn't exist.
Yeah.
2011 was a time where e-commerce was still relatively new.
Yeah.
It had been there obviously for some time, but I remember conversations, debates on the radio at the time. Is this really going to happen? Will people really pay for delivery? Wouldn't you rather just drive to the concept of delivery cost was like, no, that's a barrier. Nobody's going to shop online.
Yeah.
And so, it was very much a try and test sort of situation. And I think I did £100 online in my first year for Christmas, and I was like, wow, this is great. And then looking back, I'm like, wow, how does a business sustain itself by turning over £100 at Christmas? But yeah, and those are the sort of trials and errors of it. And the actual what's the right word? The actual construct of a website is really important as well. I remember sitting with a friend, and when you go on somebody else's website, it's so easy to be very critical of the flow.
Sure.
But as soon as you go on your own website, you're like, no, all these things have to be there. And suddenly, when you strip it back, you're like, no, the consumer doesn't need to know those 90 pages worth of information. You can put them if they want to find it,
Sure. Yeah.
but they don't need it. But the first instance is you want to talk to a consumer, and actually you don't want to do that. You kind of just want to keep few buzzwords, few images, and it's just
Yeah.
the least path of resistance to the checkout basket is essentially how e-commerce works, right? You want the least number of decisions. That's the whole idea of it, as opposed to 70 different chocolate boxes, and they're like, okay, I'm going to come back later. So it was a journey really trying to figure out how to do it right.
But like you say, is that without a website, I mean, whether it's now or back then, if you didn't have one, you don't exist. And I guess one of the great things about the web and how it came about was you were able to communicate that story, and also showcase your products.
Yeah, and absolutely. I watched I'm a fan of The Apprentice. Over the years, it's changed, and comical value and seriousness and whatever, and I still enjoy it. And I love the episode where they have to create a video to pitch a concept. And I remember at that time, again, lots of websites were starting to use video. And I remember going to shoot a video and putting that online. And yeah, and it's interesting, all the different things you kind of move with time, and it moves so quickly, because by the time you've edited and stuck it on, time's moved on.
Yeah.
It's so quick. It's like now we're doing something else.
Yeah. No, it's the pace of change. So back then, 2011 or even 2014, what was the I guess you weren't on BigCommerce then. What platform were you on that then?
I was on Wix originally, yeah. So sort of 2011 to probably 2013, I'd say 12, 13. I was only on Wix for about 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah. And then what did you move to BigCommerce, or is?
Yeah, I moved over to BigCommerce.
Yeah, cool. And how have you found that in contrast? I guess BigCommerce has been part of the journey now.
Yeah, I mean, BigCommerce is a beast compared to, at least that's my experience of it. And I think Wix at the time was, it had some free options and you could sort of test the market, but it didn't give you the full functionality of what e-commerce can really do. And I came across BigCommerce, and at the time, there were several other. Squarespace, I think, it felt to me as if it was still just trying to find its way in the market. And it felt more like it was an arts or services oriented space. Yeah. And Squarespace Shopify was something that was probably there or thereabouts with BigCommerce. I think there's a few fundamental things that I really wanted to have functionality wise, which Shopify didn't offer at the time. They do now. One of them was recurring billing on subscriptions. And that was really important, and neither did BigCommerce. However, BigCommerce would allow you to use plugins, so third parties could come and put their apps, and you could just put the apps on your website, widgets as they called them in Wix. And so that suddenly meant BigCommerce gave me far more many opportunities to build, or even if you're on the website for a few minutes, suddenly a thing will pop up saying, Kevin from London just bought, all factual. Kevin, I wouldn't give you full details, but Kevin from London bought 2 boxes of chocolates. So it creates a space where people are like, oh, people are buying here. It's a busy space. Chocolates is here now. And so these kind of additional attributes help create a more holistic, lively space, giving the consumer comfort, which Wix didn't offer.
Yeah. Interesting. So you talked about, one of the things we look at as an agency is that acquisition, conversion, retention. And you talked about the subscription model. Is that something that you're, have you got regular customers that are buying on they've got subscriptions? Is that something you're doing right now?
Yeah, we focus mainly on one particular subscription. I've chosen not to put that out to everything. Hot chocolate isn't something everyone drinks every single day or every week like coffee. We could put a subscription for it, but what we do have is a monthly club. And so you could sign up to our monthly club, and every month you get a delicious box or array of chocolates, often themed or relevant in some way. It's a very well attended, for want of a better word, club.
And is that kind of, is that curated? You send people out something that is for them, or is it like everybody gets the same? How does that work?
So we have 2, a vegan option, and we have one which does contain milk, dairy, and it's not tailored to the individual, but it's tailored to the season or something's happening. So for example, you have box themed around Home Alone at Christmas, and all the flavors linked to moments in the movie, or the World Cup was on, and we picked the final 6, and we made flavors around those nations. And quite often, we've got a huge amount of NPD, new product development, happening here, and we might want to test something out in the market, and we're like, what do you guys think? Here's a tomato and basil flavored chocolate. What do you think? And those flavors aren't something you'd find anywhere else. So it's a club that really gives access to flavor exploration.
Yeah, that's really nice. I think that's great from a testing perspective, but also as a consumer, you get these nice little treats turned up. I think that's great.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So what's in terms of bringing in new customers, what's your biggest challenge right now for acquiring new customers?
Well, we're all fighting for the top the same 10 spaces, aren't we, really? And let's be honest, we're fighting for the top 4, probably, or 5. By the time you scroll down to the bottom 5, no one really, I mean, I certainly don't really look at them. I probably click on the first few. And, when you've got, the likes of Hotel Chocolat and Cadbury and various other large companies, the big buzzwords, chocolate's the obvious one, are very much not ones you'd be found on very easily. And even if you go for luxury artisan chocolates or luxury chocolates, again, there's so much competition for those few spaces, it becomes quite difficult.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing is just to get in front of the customer in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you go about at the moment in terms of the kind of channel mix and obviously you've got your Google search. Are you doing stuff on Meta, TikTok? What's the
We haven't yet fully explored TikTok. That's something that we've got in the pipeline. But our newsletter is the most successful way of
generating sales? Yeah,
absolutely. But in terms of,
you do a lot of gifting, I'd imagine.
yeah, we do. Yeah, and a lot of our customers do eat our chocolate, and we see them because they buy regularly.
Yeah.
However, we are a luxury brand. We're a gifting brand. So, we're not the kind of company who will send marketing emails every single month just because that's what our schedule tells us to do.
Yeah.
That's annoying for them and it's pointless for us. I'd rather be more targeted and relevant for the consumer and it make our work more efficient as well. So, a few weeks before Christmas or a month before Christmas, we'll put maybe 2 messages per season, essentially.
Yeah.
And there's always something really fun as well. So there's a deal, there's a treat, there's an extra gift, and there's normally a new product launch quite often as well for that season. So there's always something quite interesting in the newsletter as opposed to here's last year's chocolates, buy them again, please.
Yeah.
Makes our job fun and it's nice for the consumer too.
It's key moments, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we all need to buy we all want to buy gifts and sometimes we need to. Maybe we're obliged, who knows? Terrible that. But or we there's loved ones, there's birthdays, there's anniversaries, all these lovely moments are constantly happening. And I would like to think, we're in the top of people's minds when it comes to really good chocolate.
Yeah, brilliant. And what's the biggest challenge from an e-com perspective, in whether that be acquisition, conversion, the retention? What's the thing that gives you a headache?
It is just acquiring new customers. It's how do we get ourselves in front of a customer? And the second part is how do we differentiate the luxury we are saying we have versus the luxury other people say they're offering?
Yeah,
Because luxury is so subjective, right?
yeah, for sure.
Right. I mean, a Lindt bar is luxury compared to Cadbury's, right?
Yeah.
Hotel Chocolat is luxury compared to Lindt, and it just goes on and on and on, right? And so when people are looking for luxury and pockets are struggling, as we all know they are, how we maintain those sales, 1, get in front of people, 2, explain what luxury is, and 3, get the sale. Those are all the regular challenges of us.
I mean, it's also taste as well, isn't it? Right?
It is. But what I would say, one of the things that's made life trickier is social media, and it's a great thing. But at the same time, I feel a generation's preference and natural trajectory of taste has been leapfrogged, because you've gone from a very sort of complex palette where people were experimental and try and really find things, has been and that middle age bracket, which we're all in, has been sort of leapfrogged to a generation who want to see jugs of cream and chocolate sauce pouring over and out of things, and that's what sells. The more audacious the dish looks and the more abundant it looks, irrespective of taste and quality, the more people want it. And so there's a real tussle between luxury value in abundance and luxury in its intrinsic self, in terms of small something, not necessarily small, but the idea of something being curated, carefully thought after, versus abundance and just this crazy experience. So that's where the sort of pull is right now.
Yeah, it's not seeing. So you have a tiny chocolate that you put in your mouth. That experience isn't necessarily something for social media. That's a personal thing, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's you can convey it. There is an audience for it. But the things that go viral are not going to be, I mean, I kid you not, the chocolate we use is literally on the brink of extinction, some of it. And by eating it and using it, we're bringing this thing back from extinction. I mean, what could blow your mind more than that, right? And we're looking after it in a particular way. We're treating it in a particular way to bring out the flavor and respect it and present it in a way which is truly wonderful, right? And it is special. And I know that comes not always at a price, but it can come at a price, and it's small and it's somewhat short-lived. But that's an experience.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And we're here on the world planet to really experience and explore, and this is truly exploration. Versus, this massive abundance, and how you can communicate this is special when there's fireworks going off over like these viral bars and chocolate bars. It's really difficult.
Yeah. Talk to me about the cacao and the how you source that.
So I source all my chocolate from Original Beans, who I'm an ambassador for.
Yeah.
And Original Beans are not only chocolate makers, but they're also cocoa farmers, and one step back, they're also ecologists. So Philippe, who's the founder of Original Beans, he is now the 6th generation in his family to have done ecology. And what they're doing is using cacao to regenerate and rehabilitate the ecosystem. So I was very lucky. I mean, there are several farms. We don't use the word plantation in Original Beans because plantations have connotations of rows of monocrop.
Yeah.
There is no such thing in Original Beans as farms and cocoa gardens. So I was fortunate enough to go to one, which was in Colombia in January. And I've worked with chocolate now for 14 years, and I live and breathe chocolate. And I literally have chocolate in every single meal and have done for the last 14 years, probably longer than that. So I truly know chocolate, and I mean that in an intimate way, which could be quite concerning. Like I know it. I think it can change the world. I think it's literally the best ingredient. It's the best art material. I just think it's amazing. Yet going to Colombia and seeing it firsthand was still mind blowing for me.
Was it?
Seeing these wild tribes who do not interact with modern civilization, not even Western, but just the local modern civilization, keep their values, keep their culture protected, and see it as their responsibility, their cultural responsibility, to maintain balance between earth and themselves. And so this cacao is in a food forest. There's bananas and mangoes and starfruit and coconut, pineapple and cacao growing all together. And you just cannot compare that to this mass-produced cacao. It's not possible. And so there's lots of different varieties. And then from that point onwards as well, the way the cacao is looked after, fermented, roasted, and the entire harvest process is truly special and gives us this incredible chocolate at the end.
Excellent.
So our mission, is changing the world one chocolate at a time, and I can stand by that statement.
I saw that. Yeah, I think that's a powerful statement.
It is, and with Original Beans, I can stand by that with my eyes closed.
Yeah. What about the future? What does the future look like?
For our e-commerce, or Chocolatier, or
Just generally for you as a founder.
I think the legacy is we're changing the world through chocolate.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to do that in as many ways as possible. I want to be able to give back. We already are contributing via Original Beans to the livelihoods of the farmers, to the environment and the wildlife there as well in those farms. I also, education is a really important facet for me. And I would like to, whether that's in India, where I'm originally, well, I'm not born there, but my roots are there, and I lived in Mumbai for 2 years. I'd love to give back in education, whether there or elsewhere as well. That doesn't necessarily matter, but I think education is important, and I think through the success of chocolate, we want to make a change through that too.
Where does technology sort of play its part in terms of the what do you think something is? What do you think we should be watching out for? I mean, AI is something that everybody's talking about at the moment. Does that play a part in what you're doing?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, I've already used AI in several projects, and it's fantastic. I think it's a really good tool. Like any tool, like a knife, it can be used as a bad thing as a good thing. So
Right.
it's the same for all the technology as well. So I think it's about harnessing it and understanding it and utilizing it in the right way. And so um, I also think we've got to the point now where this current generation isn't going to go to physical bricks and mortar stores, or less and less. And so online is going to be a really, really key space.
Yeah.
There's always, stores like the big department stores of London will always hold their value. That I can't. I mean, the day that changes is going to be insane, but they will always, I think, hold their value. But for brands like myself, online is the space. Storytelling is going to be important without overburdening.
Yeah.
With these one-step checkout, all these process flows are going to be really, really important. So getting ahead of that technology and being well prepared and ahead of the game is, sometimes I've been online and I've clicked through and I've bought it without even realizing, that's how quick these checkout chains are.
Yeah.
And you're like, when did that happen? And so maybe that's too quick. You still want the consumer to know they're doing the purchasing, but we want to be ahead of that and just make sure that the process is there.
Excellent. So if you had one piece of advice to an aspiring founder, not necessarily in the chocolate world, but just generally, what would that be?
I think it's to sort the brand out first. It's probably leaning on my personal journey. I think that the brand is really important. Understand what the values are and the brand image. Um, you know, the perceived value of confidence through a brand's image
Yeah.
is priceless. And so I think get that right, and your e-commerce will be your window to the world. It still surprises me now when, I mean, we've done well reputation wise in the industry. I don't know how we are financially compared to others. That I'll never know. But
No.
reputation wise, I I see and I trust that we're well respected, and I think we should be, because of the values with which we work. Yet I find it interesting that when I see, my competitors and friends in the industry, and sometimes, they're like, "Oh, you're doing so well," and inside I'm thinking, "Am I?" But you know, I think it's important that the window to your business, your e-commerce site, is plush, and it talks the talk, because no matter what's really happening, no matter how low your confidence is or you're not sure about what you're doing, that outside projection comes through there and needs to be pucker.
Yeah. Perception.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Anish, thank you very much for coming on. It was really, really good to meet you. I think there's a lot of stuff there that's really, really interesting. I'm sure our viewers will love it.
Oh, brilliant. It was lovely talking to you as well, Kevin.
Excellent. Good stuff.